This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
Police responded to a 911 call.
Dramatic video of gun insanity in the Bronx.
Police releasing a new video of a person that they are still trying to track down.
Defund the police is not the answer.
Many people surveyed said they just don't feel safe in the city.
It's a shooting outside of a store.
This is Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast.
Police this morning are searching for the person who turned this Harlem platform to a crime scene.
A Red Apple Media Podcast Network production. Now, here's Bo Dietl.
Welcome to Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast. Well, today, first we're going to talk about the garbage that's going on with our city a little bit. But then, I don't get impressed by too many people, but I'm impressed with my guest today. You know, I've interviewed many of the detectives that I've met through my career and all that. But this gentleman today is one of the most remarkable detectives from the New York City Police Department that I've ever had the privilege to meet. His name is Randy Jurgensen. And we're going to talk to him. Put it this way. He's, besides being a former New York City detective, he's a hero, was in a war that people all forgot. It was called the Korean War. And he was one of our heroes there. But instead of just going away, he threw his disability away, and he came on the New York City Police Department to fight again. And thank God he did. And he's a little older than me, a little bit, but I'm very honored and very proud. I watched him on an interview not too long ago. I was so friggin' impressed, and you're going to be impressed with him. But let's just attack this other stuff real fast, okay? Okay, so Zohan Mondavi now, all of a sudden Eric Adams now is in Albania setting up his next business. He doesn't give a crap about New York. We know about $7 billion with migrant funding, no bid contracts. But by dickhead, that's you, Mr. Mayor Eric Adams. You don't give a crap. You're in Europe now. Okay, that's it. And then as far as my other friend goes, Andrew, come on. If you don't do an act of contrition, Andrew, and say you're sorry for all the crap you started, every cop killer in New York State is out. Every one of them. Their children, their grandchildren will never see their grandpa because of your duties. And on top of it, bail reform. The regular people whose children were victims of crime, we had bail reform. Now they don't even go to jail anymore until you go on the TV and say you're sorry for anything that you've caused any hurt to anybody. Also, we all know about COVID, and I don't know what you did, what you didn't do, but all people want to see is a compassionate person. You're running against a little 33-year-old punk from a real rich family from Uganda who doesn't have a clue. And I always say it, he couldn't run a friggin' Kool-Aid stand, and now all of a sudden he's going to control a $115 billion budget, New York City. He wants to defund the police more. He wants to defund them, plus take their heart and soul out. All the services in New York, including all the businesses in New York, are going to move out. The New York Stock Exchange, everyone's going to move out. We're going to have a destruction city. I was here during the 1970s, and my guest was here during it. We saw how bad it could get. I'm sorry to say, if this piece of garbage little punk gets in, Zohan Mondavi, he's an admitted socialist communist. We want him to run the greatest city in the world. My New York City, my grandchildren, my children live in this city. We must get out there. And I say it again, anybody but Mondavi. I started this PAC a while ago, PAC. It's a political action PAC. And I tell everyone, go to it. It's nycabm.com. Contribute what you can. I'm doing commercials as we're speaking. You could go to that website. Let's take this commie socialist out. This is not a Republican Democratic thing. This is the survival of my city that I gave my blood for. And you people have to understand, we're on the eve of destruction for New York City if this punk gets elected. And now, I'm sorry for getting so upset, but I'd like to welcome my guest. And when I said in the beginning, one of the most remarkable detectives I've ever had the privilege to meet, you are. And like I said, I've watched you interview, and I says, my God, I've interviewed the supposedly best detectives and all that. They couldn't shine your sneakers. You know, you don't have shoes on. Randy, I'm very honored that you're here on my podcast. And how old are you now, Randy? I can ask you. You're not a woman. You'll tell me how old you are.
91.
You're 91 years old.
Yes.
And we have the privilege of having you today. And I think what we have to talk about, let's start off with your early life. Where'd you grow up, Randy?
I was born in during the Depression. I was raised in the Second World War, and one of the memories of my parents was December 7th, 1941, which is my birthday, that my mother and father were crying. I'll never forget that. And the next time that I saw them cry is when President Roosevelt passed. I'm the oldest son of parents who were superintendents on a 5-floor walk-up.
Shovel coal for the heat?
No, coal. My mother would get up 4:30, 4:45 in the morning and go down and start two furnaces, one for hot water and one for the heat. It was tough. It was tough times. I truly remember during the Second World War how they had stamps to get meat to get this. But I was raised in a neighborhood where
What area? What area, Randy, were you raised?
125th Street.
Oh, in Harlem.
Oh, yes, 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. I could walk a half a block over and see the Apollo Theater. Yes, I went to Catholic school, Corpus Christi, and in my class, was George Carlin.
George Carlin, the comedian?
Yeah, George Carlin.
Is he still with us, or did he take the pipe?
No, George has passed.
I'm sorry.
I was raised in a family where you had to work. You definitely had to work. Yes, my brother and myself took care of the garbage, and I'll always remember this about New York City. We were superintendents. We did not sweep from the stoop to the gutter. We swept from the gutter back and picked up the garbage and put it in there. Some of these things have always stayed with me. Because of my lifestyle, because of how I was raised, because I was taking illegal numbers at the age of 12 and I got caught.
What year would that be about?
Probably
in the 40s,
1944.
During the war?
Oh, yeah, during the war. And
during World War II, ladies and gentlemen, the war. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. And I was on 125th Street. I was steering for what they call the wire room, where the people were going to make all their horse bets and stuff, which my uncle was in there. And my father took me there once. But I was, and I got money for that, Bo. And so therefore, the money that I got, I came home and I saw how my father was with his mother. When he went to visit his mother, he brought money and put it on the kitchen table.
To help mom and dad.
I did the same thing. And I came home.
All right, so let's listen a little fast forward. And now we're talking about the beginning of the 1950s, the advent of the Korean War.
Yeah.
So what happened? How old were you? And did you want to go?
Well,
what was your parents' feeling about you going into the service?
Well, I continually, you understand, raised in the Second World War. That's what it was. That's what it was all about. And so when Korea happened, which was not a war, we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait to join in my neighborhood. And so
why was your feeling to get involved with a war that was underclick, similar to the Vietnam War?
You know, when you're 16 years of age, you really don't know that. All you know is that, you know...
You love our country and you wanted to serve.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot to do with that, yes. It was almost expected. It was almost expected, you know, that when you got to be 18 or drafted or whatever it really was expected. So...
What service did you go?
A group of us, Bo, got together, and we went down to 42nd Street. Of course, I altered my birth certificate.
What do you mean you altered
I had hounded my mother to sign. So my father said, Betty, you sign. He's not going to sign.
How old were you?
16. So she signed. My father wouldn't sign.
How old were you supposed to be, Randy?
17 with signatures.
Not 16, but good.
Yeah.
So you forgazized your birth certificate.
I did. And so when I went down there with my mother's signature, he said to 42nd Street, by the way.
Yeah.
So he said to me, well, your father, and I said, my father's dead. Never asked me another question, nothing. And I was in. So as soon as I was in, and I went in with other guys from my neighborhood, as soon as I was in, I found out that if you were did a hazardous job, such as working with demolition or becoming a paratrooper, there was extra money. So I was at the front of the line. I went to become a paratrooper for the extra money.
Now, which service? Which service did you join?
I was in the Army, but Bo, I was there 2 months, 2.5 months. They caught me. They sent me home. Yeah, they sent me home. I met the parish priest. Met me at the and my father. So my father said he would sign, but please stay home for Christmas, which I did. So I went back on my mother's birthday, which was February, and I became a paratrooper. And as soon as I was a paratrooper, I found myself in Fort Benning, Georgia, Green Beret. Tough training. And as soon as that was done, I heard that if you worked with explosives, if you worked with dynamite, you could get extra money. So I volunteered for that. And as soon as I completed that course, and you can only collect hazardous money once, but as soon as I completed that course, I found myself on a ship going to Korea.
Now, and combat. Let's talk about combat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was so worried. That when I got to Korea, I got there in October, and I wasn't going to be 18 until December. That you couldn't be in combat until you were 18, and so I was worried that they were going to catch me, that they were going to find out. So I sort of held my breath almost every day. And when I became 18, you know, but...
well, hell broke loose then. Let me at him.
No. Oh, the memories that I have of Korea was, boy, was it cold. It was cold. And all the equipment that we had was retread from the Second World War, you know. And when the Chinese entered it, we were almost pushed into the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many men did we lose in the Korean War?
In 3 years, we lost 53,000, and in Vietnam, in 11 years, they lost 57,000. So it was almost like they were losing 5,000 a year. We were losing 5,000 a month. It was something like that.
So while you were in combat and all that, you were the recipient. You know, a lot of people don't understand, like, you have Bronze Stars. How many did you receive? I
received 3 Bronze Stars for 3 different episodes, which I'm not going to go into.
No, you don't have to.
And I received the 3rd Bronze Star on Pork Chop Hill along with the Purple Heart. I received the Purple Heart.
As a kid, I remember seeing a movie about Pork Chop Hill. And I'll be very honest.
The guy that's wounded in there and is running the messages back and forth. His name is Jurgens, Jurgens.
That was you.
Yeah. And also in the book, But
let me just let the viewing audience, because these kids popped up in a vegetable farm. Do you know what he's saying? 3 Bronze Stars he won. You don't get that for anything. He's not going to go into it. He fought for this country. But then all of a sudden, while he fought for this country, he decided to do something else. When you left the service, you developed disabilities from your wounds.
I did. I came home with a 30% disability, and if I applied for the disability, I couldn't work for the city. And we were playing stickball. A guy came along, and
how old were you now then? At that,
I was 19.
19, and you
I completed 3 years.
And
at
seen
19.
all the shit in the world over there in Korea.
I'm 19.
And what made you decide?
I can't vote. I can't get married.
You couldn't even drink, I don't think.
No, I couldn't. You had to be 21.
So then you come back. What made you decide to work for the city?
Bo,
yeah.
We found a way to drink.
Oh, I'm sure we did. You're listening to Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast. Please stay tuned with this message, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away, stood up for victims, and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor, like the steamfitters, plumbers, and ironworkers, everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute crime. He plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage theft, and deadly working conditions. She's always been a partner of unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. Diana4DA.com. Paid for by Diana for Manhattan DA.
What made you decide? Was your first odd thing to become a cop or a fireman?
I never, not a single thought to become a cop. Never did. We're playing stickball. A guy by the name of Mike shows up with all these applications of with the police department, the fire department, the Department of Parks, and one for the post office. I filled them all out. And the first one they called was the police department. So in order to go and work for the city, which is the police department, I had to waive my 30% disability from the Army.
So your loyalty to our country and to our city too was to waive your disability. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to become a New York City cop.
I couldn't.
So now you come on. Okay, so a lot of people don't know we're about to embark on one of the most interesting police careers. Look at Bo Dietl, One Tough Cop. Randy Jurgensen is my hero. So let's talk a little bit about your first assignments, and then let's talk about the undercover. Let's go. You're in the academy. What happens?
I'm in the academy, and I'm still doing what I'm doing.
Didn't you have to be
steering people?
Didn't you have to be 21 to become a full-time cop?
I did.
So what did you do? How old were you when you came on?
I became a cop. I became a cop before I was 21 because they took from when I originally lied about my age. And so that was another thing that I sweated out a little bit. So when while I was in the academy, I was still collecting illegal numbers and steering, and they caught me. 2 cops caught me, Sonny Israel. And
I remember Sonny Israel, the name.
Yeah.
He worked with Randy, with Sonny Grasso.
Of course he did. Sonny Israel and Altameri. Tony Altameri.
So they said, and then you said, I'm going to become a cop. They say, punk, you're running numbers. You ain't going to become a cop. What they say to you?
No, they threw me up against the wall and, and stuff like that. And I said, hey, look, I got to tell you something. And, I know we can't use language on the show.
Yes, you can.
And they said, are you fucking crazy? You're becoming a cop and this is what you're doing? And it was quite serious at the time. That was quite serious. So they let me go and blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't you know it that I graduate the police academy and I'm assigned to Spanish Harlem, the 25th precinct.
That's where I was.
I know. And Bo, standing on the stairs is Sonny Israel and Tony Altameri, and they said, "Hey, here comes the kid that takes numbers." the whole precinct. Yeah, they all knew about it. Sonny Grasso was there, by the way, also. So I was there. I made some collars. I made some good collars. And while I was in court with a good collar, I was approached by a captain who I don't know to this day, and he told me to report to what is now the museum, but one on
the east side, the lower east side,
the first precinct, right? Yeah. And so I went down there the next day in the bag. With the uniform on, and Mario Biaggi was in charge, and he would go on to be a congressman. So Mario was in charge of the undercover narcotics.
Was it Bossi? No, it wasn't Bureau of Special Services.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. And so he said, go back and get out of the bag, get out of there, and come back here. And I did that. That
means go get some civilian clothes in there.
Yeah. And so, within that week, I found myself out in the street, and I wound up buying, half loads,
okay,
$75.
So very important, because, like I said, this is the most interesting part of your life to me. Is so you went undercover, you went into narcotics first, you were doing buys and stuff like that first, and all kinds of arrests you were making.
Yeah.
And, mentally, did you completely... did you live months at a time away from your family at all? Were you really that deep? Randy?
Not months. No, really not months. Later on, there was a time when I went undercover. To get the salt and pepper team that were killing the homosexuals.
But yes. there's three major things that I'm really interested in. One is they did a movie called Cruising with Al Pacino about them kidnapping homosexuals and murdering them, and they wanted to make it look like cops were doing it. That was one big one. Obviously, everyone knows the French Connection and other ones, but let's start right when you get on. After the narcotics, what was the next thing you did?
Okay, so this is a true story. So I'm working in Alphabet City. It's 1963. I'm undercover 18 months. You know what it's like. You almost forget being a cop. I'm in that world. I'm living in that. I'm living in that world. As my son-in-law says, did you blow your nose all over your face and go out and make these buys? So yes. So I'm making a buy up on the top floor. It always is, right, folks? I'm making a buy on the top floor, $75, a half load. It could have been roach powder for all I know. I'm coming down the stairs. I see sneakers and hands coming up the stairs. I know I'm in trouble. So I beat it back up, and I remember I'm coming back to the guy. I've been set up. So I get up onto the roofs. They're all attached roofs. I go over 3 roofs. I manage to get on the fire escape. I see them on the roof. I get on the fire escape. I run out, and I come out on Delancey Street. And, Bo, you were a cop. You were a street cop. Your stomach can tell you when something is not right.
Sixth sense that we've had.
Oh, well, whatever it is. I knew something was not right. I didn't know what it was. So I saw the heavy Jewish population. They were standing in front of Ratner's restaurant looking at a black and white TV. I went into the 7th precinct, and there was the sergeant behind the desk, and you know what continuity is. So I'm going to take the drugs out. We got to do this dance. I'm a UF-61, a DD-5, because undercover, the New York City Police Department at that time looked like Eddie Egan. So, I had to prove. So when I did, I was giving him the drugs, and he was turning to the drugs. And I said, "Hey, Sarge, where is everybody?" And you said I can use language. He turned to me and he says, "I don't know where the fuck you've been, but they just shot and killed the President of the United States."
John F. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy. My world stopped. I think everybody's world stopped. And so, Bo, nothing was done for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. In the meantime, in narcotics, Sonny Grasso, Eddie Egan, Dick Oletta, all of them, they were working on drugs that were coming in from France. And it turned out to be the Patsy Fuker case, right? So that got into the paper.
Now we're developing into the real French connection.
Yes. Robin Moore got permission to hang out with the narcotic detectives. He did. And Robin Moore, at this particular time, had written a book called The Green Berets, which was made a movie with John Wayne. Yeah. So Robin Moore went down to narcotics to hang out. And, I know for a fact that Robin Moore was to hang out with all the guys in narcotics. Probably, more than most likely, Robin Moore couldn't get away from Eddie Egan. So
I knew it.
Yeah. So, but let me tell you something. If it wasn't for Eddie Egan and Sonny Grasso, there probably would not have been a book. And you know the book.
I know the story.
Hollywood came calling.
I mean, Eddie. Once Eddie started talking stories, you couldn't shut him up.
That's it. Okay. So.
And one thing.
Now they're going to make the movie, but here's something that people don't know. When they were first going to make going to make the movie, it was still until he wrote the book, it was still called the Patsy Fuker case.
Yeah.
Okay. So once they started to make the movie, and I was in it from the very, very beginning because I took Gene and Roy and I turned them into narcotic detectives.
You're talking about Gene Hackman and Roy Schneider.
Yes, I took them out on raids, the shooting galleries, absolutely.
And you're in the movie, too, when you hit over there in Reno's house.
Yeah,
no, but this is something very important I wanted to tell you. Yeah. You never knew it, Randy. When I saw the movie, they were in this restaurant called Copain on First Avenue, 50th Street, when the Frog was in there, and they were cutting that Chateaubriand. Yeah. I had to go to that friggin' restaurant and have that Chateaubriand from that movie. And then later, I became friends with Sonny and all that. But my point with that was this was, again, the largest seizure at that time, 12 million in...
well, it was. What the seizure was, there's been a bigger quantity, but not better quality. This was almost 90% pure. It came from Marseille. No, it was. But let me tell you this: the first person to play Eddie Egan was the Daily News, the president of the writer from the Breslin.
Jimmy.
Yes. So. I'm there tossing Breslin up against the wall doing this.
They were going to actually have Jimmy Breslin play.
I told you, that's the truth.
Holy crap.
Then the next person was Robert Mitchum, and that lasted all about 5 minutes. Yeah. And then one day, Gene Hackman showed up, and we bonded quite quickly because Gene Hackman also lied about going into the military. He was 16. So while that's going on, and I partook very little in that, but I did sit on the wiretaps that they had. I did follow the Frenchmen. Yeah, it was a long time. However, I get a call, Bo, to go over to the district attorney's office. Mm-hmm. And all these calls are 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why. So I go over there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still in narcotic gear. There's a captain in there, and I believe it's Najari in there. And from Greenwich Village, there is a complaint from the Greenwich Village community that homosexuals are being kidnapped, homosexuals are being shook down
and killed.
Well, not at this point. They weren't killed. And so you're going to go undercover. We got you an apartment on Bleecker Street. You're going to go under. I'm coming out from 18 months in narcotics undercover.
Right, but this is important that people understand. There was a movie called Cruising with Al Pacino. Yeah. And this is based on Randy's case.
Yeah, Al Pacino loosely, yes. So I go into the apartment,
So you befriended a lot of these.
Bo, it literally took me a month and a half to ingratiate myself, to find out how it worked. Yeah. And what I found out is that they were working on Wall Street. They had jobs.
So you're talking about the gay guys that you initiated. Yeah. These were guys working on Wall Street. You would never suspect that.
I didn't run into heroin addicts.
These are professional guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but they were hidden. They couldn't become cops. They couldn't work for the city. They couldn't hold a job that might have had some critical or crucial. Yeah. No, they could not.
When did the murders start?
So, well, the murders started when I was able to, and I'm not going to go into that story, when I was able to ingratiate myself into what they called at that time the leather world.
Right, and they thought there was a serial killer killing him. Am I correct?
At that point, the people, my neighbor, which was portrayed very well by Don Scardino in the movie, looked exactly like him. They thought it was cops.
Oh, wow.
They thought it was cops. And one was black, one was white, and it was a salt and pepper team. See, so they thought it was cops. So I never did hear the word serial killer. I never did. So it took me months, and it's a long story, Bo, but I did get lucky. But here's what they would do, Bo. They would go down and they would get a gay person in a compromising situation. They would take him, hold him overnight.
They couldn't go to the cops because at that point they would be looked upon.
And hold him overnight. And then take him to his bank.
That's like robbing a drug dealer. What are you going to do? Go to the police?
Okay.
Sonny, I'm calling you Sonny. Sonny Grassel's not here. Randy's here. Randy, we could talk for 2 days, but I want to get to some meat on this thing.
Go ahead.
Let's finish the one out with the gay guys about how you ended up getting the salt and pepper team that were killed.
Yeah, I did. So I would go down to the yards where they were. I would go into the clubs, and I was always looking. And it was now elevated. It was now heightened because they were now being killed. You know,
do you get pressure?
They would take the gay, and if he didn't have enough money from the ATM machine or the bank, they made him call his parents, and his parents came down and gave the money. You know, they really had it going on.
And when did they start killing him?
Towards the end, I would say probably the last 5 or 6 weeks.
How many actual killed? That they knew of?
Oh, there were. Not only were they were killed, but you know, they found parts of them
dismembered.
They were dismembered.
But how many about? Would kill?
I have no idea. But I didn't handle those cases. The detectives,
the homicide guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but you were the one that went undercover with the guys, so you knew the whole story. So eventually they arrest you arrested the two guys.
What happens is, and I need to tell you this. What happens is I'm now looking for killers. I'm looking for killers. It's very hard to reach me. It takes a couple of days to get to me. That's how deep I am. And I get a call to go to Najari's office, 2:00 in the morning. I go there, and Najari, there is a complaint of a lewd and indecent act happening in a club called the Agogo. And you're going to wear a wire and you're going to go up there. A lewd and indecent act, and I'm working on guys that are killing people, but so I go up to the lewd and indecent act. You know who the lewd and indecent act is? Lenny Bruce. Really? Lenny Bruce.
Because he was
so it took me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, yes, and I lock up Lenny Bruce. While I'm working
You're locking up a guy for saying something when people are killing people.
You see? And so when I went back, I lucked out. I was walking towards a location, and here they came. Wow. A black guy, a white guy.
You got that sixth sense,
they're
that
dragging,
feeling?
they're dragging this gay person with them. So, they passed me by. I went and I start to follow them. And before I could get to my car, they got in their car. And I took the license plate number down and I ran like I was running in the marathon into the precinct. I screamed who I was, put it on the air, put it on the air. And the people who want to defund the cops, listen to this, people. It was the cops in a radio car doing their job, heard the license plate number, and they got them.
Wow.
The cops got them.
And then we flipped them onto all the other ones. Wow. So this was really a tremendous case. Now, the case that comes to life, I was in the 2-5, and one of the things that I was so discouraged about what happened was a book that you wrote. You wrote a book, The Circle of Six, I believe.
Yes.
And a lot of people.
I co-wrote that book with Robert Say.
Okay.
Also a former detective.
We had one of the biggest tragedies to happen with the New York City, and people forget. And there was a thing in a mosque in Harlem where the cops were called in there. They ended up killing a cop, Phil Cardillo, and they ended up killing him. And the whole friggin' thing was covered up, and the people that initially did it were not prosecuted, and that's one of the reasons that took the flavor out of Randy's heart and soul when he saw this happening to fellow police officers. Let's do an abbreviated thing, 50,000 foot. What happened, Randy? Okay. And this is at the mosque. This is the murder at the mosque. Go ahead.
So I always start out like this. On April the 14th, President Lincoln was shot. On April the 14th, the Titanic went down. And on April the 14th, 1972, Phil Cardillo was shot inside Minister Louis Farrakhan's Mosque No. 7. On that day, I was, with my team, I was staked out on the #1 cop killer in the nation. His name was Twyman Myers. We were also looking for Joanne Chesimard. And so I was at 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue, where I'm born. And we're sitting on Twyman Myers when the 1013 came over.
This is during the time of the Black Liberation Army. One year they killed 11 cops, and one year 13 cops were killed by this group. Go ahead.
Correct. And these cops were white, black, Irish, Italian, Spanish, yes. They were killing them because they wore the magnificent blue uniform. So I was sitting on 125th Street in Amsterdam area. The 1013 came over, and it came with an address. And I'm a seasoned detective by now in the 2-8 precinct. I've handled homicides. I've handled Piagentini and Jones. In fact, I undressed Piagentini.
And these are two cops were sitting in their radio car and machine gunned down by these scumbags. And Curry and Benetti, all these guys I remember.
Yeah, it was Piagentini and Jones, Curry and Benetti, Foster and Laurie. Foster and Laurie survived Vietnam, but they didn't survive the streets of the city of New York. But in any case, that's the case I'm working on. And the 1013 comes over, and it's an address. And as soon as I got into 116th Street, that's when I realized it was the mosque. Now, to that point in 1972, and I'm in the 2-8 from 1964, right after President Kennedy in 1964. So I'm there 7 years. I never had trouble with the mosque. We did not. So when I get there, I realize it's the mosque, and I realize that there's a cop shot. The first reports were 2 cops were shot inside, and the guns were taken. This is all on the radio as I'm driving there. I know we're going to have a problem because it's the mosque. So when I got there, they took out Phil Cardillo, and I did not know who the cop was that was shot was Phil Cardillo. Then they took out his partner, Vida Navarro, and I did not see that. So when I got there, I immediately went into I went into it. I saw. And Bo, you're a detective. When I walked in there, don't forget, we don't have DNA. We don't have all that. We have nothing. We have that scene will speak to you, and that's what you got to do. Of course, you're going to call ballistics. You're going to call the fingerprint people.
Crime scene.
Oh, the crime scene, right? So I looked in there. I saw the blood. I saw the bullet holes, and I went downstairs. And downstairs, to this day, I'm going to say 14 to 16 people. The cops had 14 to 16 people in there. Now, some had handcuffs on them, and they were down there. And I know every one of those cops on a first-name basis, and they know me. They don't call me detective. They call me Randy. I work with these guys all these years. So when I was down there, and they were doing this and doing the other thing, they got them against the wall and stuff like that, and they're holding them, down comes some of the Muslims. Some of the Muslims. Okay. So when I'm down there, one of them turns to me and he says, it's Phil Cardillo who's shot. I said, what? It's Phil Cardillo. I immediately ran upstairs. When I came outside, the cops had ring the mosque in. All uniform.
They were holding everything in.
Yep, they all was there. The crime scene.
We knew the crime scene was in there.
The crime scene was there. By now, we knew that there was 2 guns missing, but only 1 cop shot, so forth and so on. And the captain of the precinct was there, and he says, "Is this yours?" And I said, "No." That meaning, is this going to be my case? And I said, "No." And I ran to the hospital. Bo, as a detective, if there is a person shot, you're not going to go in the street and look for witnesses and stuff.
No.
That person, no. So I went to the hospital to interview the cops, to get to the cops. Padilla was in there. He was convulsing, and they were trying to hold his legs down. His partner was Victor. That Victor Patillo, his partner was saying, "They got his gun, Randy. I don't know how he knew mine first. Randy, they got his gun." They were from the 2-5. They got his gun and stuff like that.
Worked with
and I went over and I eased and I took the gun from that cop and I gave it to a sergeant that was there. And it was a triage. And the next one I went into was Vito. And Vito was sitting there, was bleeding, his eye was closed and stuff like that. And I said, "Vito, you got to come back to the mosque with me. You have to identify these people." The nurse was saying, "What are you doing?" We got a towel, we wrapped it up. And here's the important part, Bo. This is the start of the beginning of the end. I am now going out with Vito holding in a towel. And there's the police commissioner and the mayor and the deputy the deputy who would write daily, who would write Target Blue. And the police commissioner says, detective. Remember.
Who was the police commissioner at that time? You can say his name.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't change.
Murphy.
Yeah, Patrick Murphy.
Yeah, who I refused a medal from. I'm already in trouble with this guy. So we go over there, and what struck me, funniest things strike me, how tall the mayor was and how short the police commissioner was. So you were over there? Yes, sir, I was. They're still calling 1013s. And this is the truth. He says, "There's no riot over there." I said, I never said that. He turned to the mayor and said, "Everything is under control." And I said, I never said there was a riot over there. I said the streets were, and he just looked at me, and I said to him, "Whatever," and I left. And I took Vito back, and when I came back, Bo, the mosque was surrounded by Muslims, not cops.
And they wouldn't let the cops in there. Yeah. And at that time, our police commissioner was Patrick Murphy. Our mayor was?
Lindsay.
Mayor Lindsay. And then who was the other fella there that was real responsible? I think it was the community affairs.
Benjamin Ward.
Benjamin Ward.
And he would be, he was the one.
He was a lieutenant.
He's the one that got up on the emergency service truck and separated black and white cops and said all white cops leave the area.
Well, this was a very important case to you for your feelings, to the love for the NYPD, and eventually they arrested the guy that supposedly did kill Cardillo.
It took me, it took 2 years. It took 2 years, and by then I was persona non grata. One PP wouldn't talk to me, out to get me. I got 51 summonses. 51 summonses on my car going down.
You were targeted. I went through that whole shit with
and so I lucked out, and I got a witness, and I never told the police department. I told the district attorney's office, and they gave me money and told me to run. And I ran for the better part of 2 years with the eyewitness. I got him into the grand jury, and that's how we indicted Louis 17 X Dupree. And of course, we went to trial, and the opening statement from the district attorney on the first trial, ladies and gentlemen, today we're putting the New York City Police Department on trial. That was his opening statement, because we had no crime scene. We had nothing. We had one witness. That's it. That's all we had.
Unbelievable.
That's all.
So this kind of went into your stomach. I mean, I can just imagine how you feel. You won one of the highest awards, the Combat Cross, from a shooting you had in 1960. You would not accept it. Why wouldn't you accept that award? And you only just accepted it within the last year, I think.
Yes. So I would not take the medal. I would not take the medal from Lindsay, because they give these medals out on Medal Day, which you know in May.
Yeah.
I said no, I'm not. I'm not doing it. And you know, Bo, the Combat Cross. Do you know that only 200 Combat Crosses have been given out since 1934?
Wow.
No. So, and it's a committee, and so the committee came to me and said, you're putting shame on that medal. That has nothing to do with the politics and stuff like that. And so 56 years later,
I
got the medal at a private ceremony.
Like I said, Randy, I could talk to you for days.
Yeah.
People have to understand something. What Randy's talking about is the politics in the job, which I faced when Tommy and I locked up the guys that raped a nun in a convent.
I know it.
And then Jimmy Sullivan, the chief of detectives, his reward was to ship Tommy on one end of Brooklyn, me on the other end. But like we did something wrong. We did nothing wrong. And I'm going to tell you something. But you know what I did? They threw me into the killing fields. Well, we used to have 110 murders. I had a party, man, because I used to go. I brought one guy and he killed 5 people. His name was Killer. I went out there, and then the big one happens. 10 dead, 8 children under the age of 12 and 2 adults. The Palm said, I had a great task force of great detectives, and then they named me as the arresting officer. I worked hard. They all worked hard, but I was named, and they all, what is Deedle doing there? And the politics sucked, but I could imagine what you went through at that time, and now just leading us into what's going on right now with the New York City Police Department.
New York City is the greatest city in the United States, if not the world. Bo, we have the theater. We wrestled it away from England. We have people from Europe that have to make an appointment to come into our museums. We've got Wall Street. We've got the UN. We have the best theater. We have the best. This is a great city. That city works because of the cops. Police officers, cops, because of cops doing their job. And if you continue to defund the cops, you're doing a complete disservice not only to the people that live and work there, but you're doing a disservice to one of the greatest cities in the world, if not the United States.
The business is one thing, but I agree with you. Public safety. I have my children and my grandchildren live here. I'm scared shit. And I'm going to tell you something right now. We have an election going. Everyone knows about it. I talked about it, and I talk about it all the time. My problem is when someone's talking about defunding, someone's talking about they put CCRB. I don't know. Did they add CCRB when you were on the job?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a good watchdog, but then the commission would have the overall say in what happens to the punishment. Now the new person who's a socialist communist wants to take that away and let the mayor decide. And now out of 100 last cases, I just checked it out, out of 100 last cases with CCRB, every one of them have been founded. Now, you know yourself, if I'm locking a guy up and I'm fighting with him and whatever, and then he makes a CCRB complaint on me, they're going to entertain it. But what in the hell would be the initiative for someone to do their job? You know what I would do if I was a young cop? I'm sorry to say. I'd look to go to Nassau County or Suffolk County. New York City will be destroyed without the police.
Bo, I agreed with that. But I guess I'm from the generation that if I raise my hand and swear that I am going to do the job, I'm going to do the job. I'm definitely going to go out there and do the job. You're not going to throw water on me. No, you're not going to spit at me. You know, name calling, man, my skin is thicker than that. Don't forget, we were in the 70s, and you know this, we were called pigs. Yeah. So what did we do? We got a shirt that said pride, integrity, and guts. You know that.
Well,
yeah.
Randy, again, this probably, and I've done a lot of interviews on my podcast. I think I did 180 interviews, but I'm going to tell you something. This, to me, is one of the most important interviews for people to watch, to see the generation. You're a generation older than me. I'm the next generation. How it is eroded and how the responsibility of this city is to the police and supporting the police and not defunding and not taking their power away from them. Otherwise, we will have no New York City the way we recognize and love. And so I really want to thank you. You wanted to say one?
Yeah, let me say this in closing. First of all, thank you for having me. And I'm not promoting books, but if you really want to know, that's order and buy Circle of Six, right? And also, which you're a part of, they have been doing a doc on me for the last 2 years, which you're a part of, which Gene Hackman, Roy Scheider, Phil D'Antoni, you name them, from the movie part of it. And, we have them all on the doc. And once again, including you, Bo.
Well, again, and I'm closing up, but like what I said in the beginning of this, you truly are one of the most, if not the most remarkable detectives I've ever met. I met them all. And I'm going to tell you something. I had the honor for you to be my friend. I'm very honored that you came all the way to this city today to do this podcast. This is, to me, one of my most important podcasts I've ever done.
Are you going to take me to dinner at Rayo's?
Within the next couple of weeks. You ready? You ready? Within the next couple of weeks. But you got to eat, okay? Randy, thank you with all my heart for being here. I wanted you for the longest time to be on my podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me, Bo.